Well, good Monday evening, Living Water Church. I pray that you guys had a blessed day yesterday. It was such a joy to be here together and celebrate Joanne and Ivan's wedding here this day on a Sunday morning. And I don't know what you guys thought about it, but I just really enjoyed being together as a family and celebrating that day with them as they made a covenant marriage union under the Lord. And just congratulations, Joanne and Ivan. And what a pleasure to be able to be a part of that. So yesterday we talked about the patriarchs, guys, but before we kind of recap on that and where we're going, I just want to give you some quick announcements of what we have coming up this week. And I do want to touch on one brief thing that leads into an announcement I have. And that thing, if you guys haven't heard, it's a national event that happened last week, and it's the Supreme Court actually voted and overturned Roe v. Wade, ending a 50-year-long legalization of abortion, and now it's back to states' rights. It's not a federal matter any longer, and the states have the ability to decide within the state level if they're going to have abortion be legal or not. And in fact, many states had trigger legislation set in motion. So as soon as the federal government legalized or delegalized abortion, I believe 13 states instantly became illegal to have an abortion in, and I know many states are to follow. This has created national havoc, many people upset, while in the same mode, many people rejoicing. And I know within my spirit, I am rejoicing that I believe in the sanctity of life. I believe that all life is precious, and life starts at the spark of conception, and therefore what God has decided to bring into this world, that it is indeed murder to end that life prematurely. And no matter the case or the cause, I do not stand here in this church in condemnation. It is not my job. That is something that is between the Lord and that individual, but it is my job to say, what does the Bible say? And the Bible is clearly teaching and clearly showing us that we are to support life at all stages, and therefore that's what I'm going to do here at the church, and that's what I'm going to support in my own personal life, and that is something that we are going to rejoice here, that this law has been removed, and that no longer is it legal in all of the 50 states to go and get an abortion, and we know that many lives will be preserved by this. This is kind of personal to me as a foster and adoptive family. Me and my wife, we have some kids in our home who, while they were still in the womb, there was actually talk of abortion, and the thought of not having those kids in my home, and that I can cherish them and support them and watch them grow, it is sad. And while maybe that that birth parent couldn't take care of that child and thought they had no other recourse, well, guys, this is a great time for Christians in our community, in our area, to step up and say, can we support those children that are going to be born? Can we step up and be foster and adoptive families, even though it might be an extra burden on you? Maybe it's a tremendous burden on you and your family, but as Christians that serve and follow the Word, are we going to say that we're going to provide an alternative output, an alternative measure for abortions? If indeed many more babies are going to be born, and indeed those biological parents cannot raise their own children, and that's why they were seeking abortion, then can we as the Christian community may very often die to self and take in those that desperately need a home? So if you've never thought about it, I would ask and tell you to pray about maybe opening up your home to take in a child that is so desperately in need. So in that regard, we work very closely with a local organization here in the Hudson Valley, CareNet Pregnancy Center, who helps young moms who maybe are contemplating abortion or post-abortive, or maybe they just are struggling and feel like they have no other alternative way out, and they're looking for help and support. And that organization offers much of that to them. And because of this national kind of outcry against the delegalization of abortion, these local centers, these local pregnancy centers, are actually getting a tremendous amount of backlash, to the point that just a few hours north of us, there was a center that was burned down in an attack, because there's so much anger against these centers because they are indeed pro-life. And so our local center has already been contacted by law enforcement officials saying that they may indeed be targeted, and they've reached out to some national organizations and other things looking for the best course of action to move forward for this summer as things are ramping up. There is indeed some protests and other things that are even going to be going on in downtown Poughkeepsie because there is so much anger against this policy being overturned in the Supreme Court. So I got a call from the director of CareNet, Deb Townsend, and what she's looking for is something that some of you would just not be able to do. Some of you might have an equipping that God has equipped you to be able to do this. But what she's really looking for is for the entirety of the summer, she's trying to collect in as many churches as possible that can help with this. And she's trying to get at least 2 people that will be willing to stay at the pregnancy center from dusk until dawn every single night. And really, if we could get a whole bunch of volunteers, it would just be once for every individual, maybe twice if you're that willing over the course of the next few months. And it would just be, staying there and keeping an eye out and praying and calling the local authorities if there is any suspicious activity on the premises. And so if you are interested in being a help to Deb Townsend and our local CareNet organization, that's what she said that they are in most desperate need of right now. It's literally just bodies to be on site and pray with a phone in hand that can call in any suspicious activity around that area for the next few months until this settles down. So if you can be involved in any way, you can shoot me a text. My number's in the description below, and I'll pass your information on to Deb Townsend, and she can give you the details and tell you how you can be a help and be involved with that. If you can't help in a physical way, if you can't stay up all night and pray and support the organization in that manner, what you guys can do is just be in fervent prayer, not only for this local organization, but all of the pregnancy centers across the country that are extremely experience extreme backlash right now after this report came out. Much anger and hostility is being directed towards them, and as a body of believers, affirming the sanctity of life and affirming the choice that we have to protect that life, I would ask that you would please support these pregnancy centers in any way you can, but especially be in fervent prayer for them as this next few months come out. An organization that is doing great work in the community can definitely use our help, support, and prayer in any way we can. That being said, if you're watching this today on Monday, tonight is the deadline for the CareNet fundraiser for our pies. So if you haven't already ordered a pie, hop on today, right now, if it's Monday still, and order a pie, and you can be assured that every bit of the proceeds for that is going to go right into the hands of CareNet to continue to support and fund their ministry. So guys, what we have coming up after that is, apart from this announcement, what we have is in 2 weeks from yesterday, we have our next Meet Me at the Park event right after church here on Sunday. We're going to all go over to James Bard State Park and just have a time of fellowship and hanging out together. So if you're here for the second service, or if you stay for the first and come back out afterwards, we'll all be over there about 12:45 or 1 o'clock to eat and fellowship together. And then events that we have coming up is always the last Friday of every month is the apologetics class. And I believe that's all we really have on the calendar right now. If there's anything else I missed, it'll be in the description below. I do have another announcement for help that we could use. If you're in-house at the church, on the announcement sheet, right on the back is a whole list of things that we're looking for. It's a supply drive for the dock. So this is our children's ministry, the dock. And there's a whole list of things there ranging from games to toys to crafting supplies that could be used for the summer and ongoing months to support the dock workers. I know many of them, week in and week out, are up in the dock serving selflessly. Some who come here to this church and have been coming here for 8 or 9 years, and every single week are up serving in the dock. And not only that, but they're also out of their own pocket bringing in supplies and arts and crafts. And so our very own Dana Duncan, who leads our children's department. She's our children's director here at the church, set up this nice list for us so we can help to support those workers as they go about teaching the gospel to the children of this church. So what a joy to have them be humble servants upstairs in the dock week in and week out. And if you're watching this and you're a children's helper, a dock worker, I just thank you so much for your selfless service. I know often it's a thankless job, and you have one of the hardest Sunday morning attenders attending your class, and that's kids who are oftentimes over energetic and maybe not always paying attention or the most courteous or polite, and maybe not giving thanks there. But know that the seeds that you're planting today might not germinate for years and years to come, but I thank you for your faithful service to the gospel and to Jesus Christ in that manner. So thank you to all those dock workers who are helping selflessly week in and week out. So guys, that's what we have for announcements. Yesterday, we had a quick, very snappy run through the patriarchs where we talked about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Abram, who became Abraham, his son Isaac, and then Jacob, who became Israel, and indeed fathered the 12 tribes, or 10 tribes of Israel. Next week, we're going to have a little more of an account of where the next 2 tribes came from one of Israel's own sons. And then we are going to be jumping into Joseph and Egypt as Joseph works his way towards Egypt, not by a series of events he chose, but by a series of events that God has indeed ordained. Steve Logie is going to be bringing the message next Sunday, so I'm really excited for that. As I get to just be here and be part of the body next week, and just enjoy a time together of hearing God's word and being nurtured in his presence, as well as sharing in joint spirit with you all. So I'm excited and looking forward to that. And just want to leave you with a small note from our study in the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And in Hebrews 11, I read this passage actually in the first service yesterday. Due to the wedding, I didn't have time in the second service, but in Hebrews 11, if you haven't read it, go back and read it through. It talks about the great faith of some of these patriarchal people, including all the way back to one of Adam's sons. And it says right in the beginning of chapter 11, though he died, this is in reference to Abel, who was slain by Cain. Though he died, he still speaks. What a promise just in that verse, that though he died, he still speaks, because indeed he is in heaven with Jesus Christ right now, as the Bible assures us and promises us. But if we go on towards the end of chapter 11, it talks about all these people, and then it says, these all died in faith, not having received the things of promise, but having seen them and greeted them from afar, and having acknowledged that they were strangers and they were exiles on this earth. For people who speak thus make it clear that they are all seeking a homeland. If they had been thinking of that land from which they had gone out, they would have had opportunity to return. But as it is, they desire a better country, that is a heavenly one. Therefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared for them a city. And what a beautiful promise that we can hold on to when we look at the patriarchal lineage of the Bible, and those that the Bible actually clarifies in the New Testament. And not that there should have been any doubt from reading through the Old Testament, but there's a tremendous clarification of these patriarchal names, that indeed they are in heaven, reigning with the Lord Jesus Christ right this very moment. And what a joy it is to know that these men who had faith in God were assured of their salvation, even though their lives were messy and sticky. And when you read through the Bible, really often all of these names are just riddled with issues, and yet because of their faith in God, the New Testament assures us that they are in heaven. And while they lived on this earth, they weren't looking from where they came from, but they were looking to where they were going to. And that's why it says that though they knew from where they came, they didn't look back to go back to their homeland. They pressed on towards the better prize. They pressed on towards the home, knowing that they were sojourners in a land. And that's why it says, and God is not ashamed to call them his sons and to offer them a city. And that city is indeed a heavenly dwelling place, not an earthly one. And that's why nothing in this earth could have satisfied them. When you look through those patriarchal names, they're just wanderers in this land, and not only wanderers of an earth like we would think, without a home to dwell in, but indeed wanderers just in the sense that this is not their home. No matter where they settled in this earth, it was not their home, because their home is in heaven. And that's the same that goes for you and me this day, that if we have faith in Jesus Christ, he has promised that this is not our home. we're just passing through, sojourners in a land, until the day that we step into our home. And that is indeed in heaven, where we will reign with Christ forevermore for all of eternity. What a joy that day will be. I so look forward to it. So guys, if you haven't done it already, pick up your Bible and read through Genesis. You can sit down and read through it. It doesn't take that long. You can do it over the course of a couple days, but if you can knock that out before next Sunday, it would be highly beneficial, because we are rapidly speeding through the book of Genesis to cover all of these initial stories, creation and Noah, and we skipped over to Job to try to keep in a chronological time sense, and then we talked about the patriarchs. Next week we're going to talk about Joseph entering into Egypt, and then right after that we'll be out of Genesis and starting to talk about the Exodus and the plagues of Egypt. So I'm excited for this. I'm excited for this summer series. I know I've talked to many of you, and you said, I've never even heard of these stories, and so it's exciting to me to start to go through some of these Old Testament things, and towards this end of this study in this series, we're going to see how that all ties in and it all wraps back to Jesus Christ, the author and the perfecter of our faith. The whole Bible is a great story of the redemptive work of Jesus Christ, and we're going to see how the Old Testament shows us beautifully how it all points to Christ. So pray you guys have a blessed week. If you need anything, my number's in the description below. And I still look forward to ministering with you guys again on Sunday. Love you.